JavaScript, the most complex language to learn, or at least that's what people say it is. Today I'm going to break it down and explain it the simplest way possible. Okay, so now we're going to get into the first part of JavaScript, and we're going to go over some basic terms and basic things that we need to know before we get into JavaScript. So the first thing we want to go over is statements. So now you're going to hear me say statements a couple of times here and there, but statements are a line of code that tells JavaScript to do anything. So what that means is just code in JavaScript that you put in there and you wanted to do something. Just say like a variable with a name and the numbers and all those things. Let's say like a variable with names and numbers and the keyword. That's a whole statement right there. Or just say like a get element by ID or document get element by ID. That's a statement too, and it tells JavaScript to select a certain thing on your HTML page, and the variable stores different data that you want to put in it. So that's what statements are. But a common thing that you also see in statements is the semicolon. So the semicolon is used to end your statement. It's used to stop your code right there and move on to a new code. So let's say like you got the variable and you type out the variable, it stops right there, and then you want to make another variable. So you type that one out and end it off with a semicolon. You don't have to necessarily use semicolons, but it's best practice and it might cause issues if you don't use it. So just make sure you put that at the end of every statement. White spaces. Now JavaScript ignores white spaces. There are some languages, but there are some languages that takes white space into account. JavaScript of course ignores multiple spacings and things like that. Also comments. Now you're going to see comments on certain parts of my videos. Comments are very simple to explain. It's just a couple of slashes, a couple of dashes, and you can create a comment. You can put anything in there. You can put a note saying that with this code, saying what this code does, or you can name it or whatever. And if you want to make a bigger note, like a paragraph, you can use it. You can use these dashes with stars at the end of them, at the end of beginning of them, and you can use that to make paragraphs. And those are the basic things that you want to know before we get into the actual code, y'all. And yeah, so we're gonna get right into the actual code itself. See y'all then. So outputs. So now outputs are how JavaScript shows your results. So just showing something on your page, pretty much. So it would be like just the 3 different ways on doing that. You can do it internally, externally, and you can do it in inline. There is 3 main ways, and that's how, of course, you operate and start coding and putting your different things on your page, like names and names or colors or just whatever you want on your page. So we're going to talk about that in more detail. So now the first method on outputting your code is inline. So inline is a way of putting your JavaScript code into your HTML tag. And hopefully y'all know what a tag is. I will be making an HTML tutorial later on, but in your HTML tag. And yeah, and I'm going to show y'all a time lapse on how to do that. And the results of that. Sorry I couldn't get a clip of me showing y'all how to do it. It went missing. So I hope y'all enjoy this little time lapse. So this is what it will look like. You get an alert saying hi. Now let's go over the internal way of doing it. So now this is how you do it internally. I have me a script tag with a document get element by ID and it will get me, and I put inside that the p tag me, and it will display me. So that's how it works internally. If you put it anywhere else, like let's put it up in the header, you put it right, it won't work. If you put it let's say above all the other code, the website will go slower. Of course, in this example, I don't have a big enough script to show y'all how slow it is, but trust me, it will go slower. So it's just better to put it all the way at the bottom, underneath everything, just to stay on the safe side. And that's how the internal way of doing it works. Now, let me show y'all how to do this externally, which is doing this, or which is putting your JavaScript in a separate file altogether. So let's make another file. You push this new file button right here, and then we're going to type out we can type out web just like we did with the other one. Type out web.js. Boom. So now let's put our code right in here. We're gonna copy this, take away all that. Boom. Now we have that, and now the order to connect it, to connect one another, because you would have to connect it for it to work, you put a script tag, and then you put source, the name, and then we're gonna put the name of the JavaScript file, which is web.js. And then, well, for some of y'all, that's how you will make a file. You will put the name of your file, and then you will put at the end of it whatever language you're trying to get to. So JavaScript will be the language we're gonna be primarily using the course, because it's a JavaScript course. So this is how you would do it, and then you will put that name in your source tag or your source attribute, and then you save it, and it should appear as the same way as the internal. There you go. So we got me. So those are the three ways. You have your you have external, you have internal, and you have your inline methods of doing JavaScript. Okay, so now we're going to talk about outputs. So now outputs are the different ways of displaying your code or your data onto your screen. So the page right here. And so far realistically there are 5 different ways, but 2 of the ways are very old and not a way that you usually use it. But there are really 3 ways on displaying your data on the screen. And this is the first way, which we will be using a lot. It's called console.log, the brackets, and then we put whatever text. We will go over why we use text like this, but it's called string for the meantime. Okay, so now we're going to put a semicolon, and then we're going to save it, and then we're going to save it. And so this is console log. So now console log is a way of debugging or testing your code. It's not really popping up on the screen. It's going to pop up on, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on, but this is what it will look like. You type in console and you log, and then you put whatever data you want in there. You can even put 1+1 or just anything in there. So now if we go down, if we right click and go down to inspect, it will take you to, yep, it will take you here. And this tell you everything about your page, really. Tell you a lot of stuff will be going on. If we go right here to the console tab, this is where you're going to find your code. So right here we got the red house, and if we change it to, let's do 1 plus 1, got 2. And this is just really just for any debugging or anything. For an example, for like a form, you might need your code to tell you if your form is connected to your database. You can use console logs to help you out, and just whole different things to um, test or just let you know what's going on. Now, alerts is just a way to alert your people that's going on your website about certain things. It can be whatever, but it will pop up an alert message. So let me show you an example. You go the red car, semicolon, put it right here. And the semicolon just ends the code. Some of y'all didn't know. So boom, there you go. So it would give you a message saying the red car, and you just use these for any alert you want to give the clients, like a discount. Maybe I think you can use this for a discount. You can use this to warn people that the page might be shut down or just whatever going on. So that's one way, and you don't have to put the window on there. But that's just one way of doing it. But what you can do is just put alert down there. So put alert, and it will do this exact same thing. Take that out then. Give y'all the actual example. Yep, there you go. And then you also have another one. Now this is not really in the group, but I like to include this one. It's called document dot get element by ID. Work. Always doing is just putting text inside your tag in your HTML page. So this says I don't got nothing in here. You want to change something that's already in here, you can use this. And this line of code means that you want to go to the document, which is this, your HTML page as a whole. You want to get element by ID, text. Oops. Text. Let's do that. Equal sign, the text you want in there, and then this semicolon. So it will pop up on the screen right here, and this is what you're gonna be doing a lot of the times right here. You want to display something on the screen off of JavaScript. So those are really the 3 ways on doing it. Since right here, your console log, your alert, and the get element by ID. And so we're gonna be seeing me using that a lot. A variable is a container that can store data. So you can store anything from numbers, letters, just whatever. You can store it inside this container. Now think of a variable like a box with anything inside. You can put some toys inside and wrap it up. You got your little box and you got your toes. So you can also put a name for it. You can slap a label on it and call it toy. And that would be a variable, y'all. And that would be a variable. Now we're gonna get on. Now we're gonna look at what that looks like in code. Okay, so now these are the different. These are the three different types of verb or variables. So you have let, cause, and ver. So now let, we're gonna start off with let first. So now with let, we have name, the equal sign, and this is a string, and we have John. So let, thing about let, you can change the values of let compared to others. You can change the value to let, and it's block scoped, which we will get into later on about the different types of scopes. But this is what let do. You can change it, you can manipulate it how you want to. Now we're on to cost. Another thing about let and cost is that they are modern ways of doing variables. Of course, this is the old way of doing variables, but we get into that later on. But for now, we're going to talk about cost. So we got the pi sign for the name, or pi for the name, and of course 3.14 for the value. And the thing about cost is you can't change it. You can't change the value. It is what it is. Once you place it, of course you can change it like boom boom, but you can't change it with methods like if you want to remove this value, replace it with something else, to just do something. You can't do that. You have to use let. So that is what a cost variable is. Now we have a var. Now var stands for variable, and is the old way of doing variables. The reason why this is so important to talk about, because just say like if you was looking over a JavaScript file that was super old, that was just back in the day, the 2010 or whatever, I don't know. But just say like you have an old JavaScript file and you see var, then you want to know what this means. So var stands for variable, and we have x equals 10. So that's what I put for the variable, and it's global scope. And you can put it anywhere. It's global scope, which we get into later on. But you also can put any value into it and change it however you want compared to these two. So, or compared to cost. So that's what you can do with var. But now let's get into the different scopes I was talking about. Okay, so now we're going to get into the different scopes. So now these are the different types of scopes. So you got global scope. So let's make another thing. This is called a function, which we will get into later on, like usual. A function. So global scope. Okay, global scope pretty much means you can put the variable anywhere on the page. Of course, except for inside the block of code right here, but you can put it anywhere else in the page outside of this, and it will still, and you can still access it. That's for the var. For cost and let, you have to have it inside the variable, and of course you have to execute it inside the variable too. So you can't put it outside here or put it anywhere you want. Gotta go inside here because it's block scoped, which means any variable inside a function. Specifically, you also got, or that's function scope, I meant to say. That's function scope. But there's also another thing called a block scope, which is just anything that's inside two brackets, really. So that'd be like an if statement or the for loop or anything like that. We get onto that down the line, but that's what that means specifically. It's very similar. There's not really a big difference between the two, but those are the different scopes for our three variables that we have here. Okay, so another thing we're gonna go over is naming rules. So for variables, there are naming rules to it. You can't just name it anything you want. So we have X right here. This is just a letter. So you safe with this, but the rules with variables is that your variable can't start with a number. So if it starts with a number like 1, it will be wrong. And your variable name is case sensitive. So you can't do it case sensitive. So this right here, name capital, is different from this variable. Is name underscore. So it's two different things. So just keep that in mind when you are typing out your name. Okay, so now let's go over the hosting. Now for here, hoisting, right here, this is the first example. This will give you undefined. If you execute it before, this will give you undefined. You can get away with doing this right here, putting your var and name, and then cutting it off and putting the rest at the bottom with console log right here. This will give you the results, and of course doing it the regular way like usual will give you the normal results too, for the verb specifically. This right here for let and cost, both of them would just end up in a reference error. So you can't access the x variable before. So that is the rules for that. So that is the rules for the let and cost in the verb. And yep, that's it, y'all. So we're gonna move on to the next part. So now we have data types. This is the next thing we're gonna be going over is data types. So you have 5 different types of data. We have string, you have number, you have booleans, that's 3. We have objects, which is one we're not gonna go over that one yet because that's gonna be for later on for a big one. But just to know that this is a variable, so this would be number 6 right here actually. So that's an object, and then we got no, and then we have undefined. Yeah, undefined. So these are the different data types right here, and the data types is the value that I was talking about that goes into things like the verb, like let, and do name, assign, 22, semicolon. Right here, the 22 is a number, and that is the value of the variable. So just to let you know that what numbers is. Strings is your characters, is your letters, things that you are writing full words out of right here, strings. Booleans are true and false, are just only true and false, and is used for things like for loop or switches or if and else statements, which we will be going over later on. And is just for true and false. Objects, the things that we will be going over later on in the video, is real world projects or real world things or objects or whatever, like cars, and it will go in detail about that. But we're gonna talk about that a little later on. No is just if you want nothing inside whatever, inside your variable or whatever, you want nothing, is no can be used for that. It's kind of complicated to explain, but I go in detail about that later on. Then we got undefined, which is no values. No values inside of whatever, like your variables. There's nothing in it. So let me show you an example of a string. I probably showed you this in the last one, but to give you a recap, so we're gonna do let name equal. Again, these are quotes right here. We put in our quotes. We put our we put in our semicolon, and now we're gonna put our characters in. So we're gonna our letters. So we're gonna put our letters. So we're gonna put Amy, and that would be our string right here. And then you also can do it in single quotes. So you got double quotes and single quotes. You can do the same thing. That's a string. You also can't change the string directly. So like in this form right here, this the whole variable with the string inside, you can't access this directly. So what that means, when you have like a method, you have a method and you want to access certain things in this string, you just can't do it. But there is a way to do it, which we're going to be going. The strings is using the variable and taking that variable name and putting inside and put that inside a variable, and then connect your method, which we'll be getting into in a minute. But this is how you do it. You can console log it and it will work. So now a method is just a function attached to an array and a string, or just any other data type, an extra function like to capitalize a letter or a slice of a couple words in half. So that's what a method is. It's just a little function. It's a built-in function. This is JavaScript specific. It's built-in, a built-in JavaScript function you can use to help you do certain operations. So that's what a method is. And now I'm going to go over basic methods of a string. So the first method is, well, hold on, let me get our inspect, because we're going to see this in the console log. Let's get this up. We're going to put the console log. So we got our different little outputs here. So for the first one is the uppercase hello. So what is this doing is we have hello and we want to uppercase it. Boom. That's an example right there. So it's all uppercase. And then the same thing for the lowercase. It's all lowercase. Trim. So we have trim, which is used to take out extra spaces. So any spaces you see right here and over here, it would take that out. And it only takes out the starting of your string and the end of your string. So that's trim. Now we have length, which will tell you the length of your string. So how many characters are inside the string, which is 5. So we have 5 characters. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and here's the example for the trim. It took out that extra space that you would have if you didn't have the trim. Hold on, let me show you an example of that. Okay, and you see that space. Now you have space right there. So after the length, length, we have slice. Now slice, hold on. Now slice is meant to take away characters. So in this example, we have the first word, which is 0, and the second word, which is the 5. So what it's doing is cutting out all 5 characters of hello. So that's why 5 is here, and we don't want to cut out any for Amy, so that's 0. And here's the output right here, which is we left with Amy. So now after that one, we have replace. So we have replace. Now replace would swap a word for or characters for another word or characters. So instead of having hello, we will have Axel. So how this works is you have to have the old character that you currently have, the current character, or words, however you want to put it, and then the new one you want to place in place of it. So it would be Axel, and right here we have Axel hello. And yep, those are all the main methods, y'all. There are a lot of other methods, but of course these are very simple to understand. It's not hard, and if you know the simple concept of at least when it comes to strings, you got your variable, you got to put it into here and attach whatever method that you want onto that variable for string specifically, because of course we can't change the string directly, so just keep that in mind. And data types have methods. I think numbers have methods. Of course objects have methods, but I think that's it. The numbers are similar to the strings. You just attach it to your name, and you just attach it to your you just attach it to the name of your variable, and you be good. For arrays, it's the same thing too. They also got the indexes for arrays. So yep. Okay, so here's the arrays. So we start off with making the let, then we give it a name, just like how we do the variables, and then we can give it multiple values inside these brackets, and you have to we put it in double quotation marks right here, and you put the string, you put your value in there, which is red, and the same thing if you want another value, you put blue, put a little put a comma, you put a comma right there, and then you do another double quotation marks with your other value. So that's what an array is. So now the order to access the array, to display it on the screen or on the console log, you can do this. Put it in one value, or put it in the variable, so we put it in a variable. You can name it whatever, and then put the name of your variable in here, and then you put the brackets after that, and then you put whatever value you want to access. It go by numbers, so it's starting from 0. It don't start from 1, it start from 0, and it go all the way up. So you have four values. It goes red, this is 0, 1, which is blue, and another is green, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can access different values, and it will pop up right here, red, and you can go up 1. Then we got blue. So that's how you access a value. Okay, so now we're going to go over a few different types of methods in arrays. And one of them is called push. So if, of course, we console log our array, put color in the console log and give us red, blue, give it a little bit more of the properties, length 2. There you go. So pushing, the pushing method is used to add different values into this array. Very simple. So we do this, the double quotation mark, and we put green. It will add a second one here. The length will be 3 now. We get rid of it. Now it's 2. And that's pushing it away. Okay, so now we're going to go to our next method. This is unshift. Now unshift adds anything or any value to the beginning of your array. So if we put, just like we did last time, green, it will add it to the beginning. Right there, start from 0, going all the way up. Now we move on to shift, which will move things or different values from the beginning. There you go. It's 1. The length is 1, and then that's just for the beginning stuff. But this is how you will move. Pop is how you will move anything from the variable. So if we want to remove blue, we can do that. Let's do blue. Boom, got red. And then we also have another type of method we can do, which is length. Now you already can see the length right here, but you can do it over here too. You can do this. Oops. Then you also can do another thing, which is check the length of your array. You have 2, and that's just some of the methods you can use for an array. So now we're going to talk about objects. Objects are containers that can store relative data together using key value pairs. So think of it like say like you have a chart. We're gonna say like Bob, our buddy Bob, has a chart, and he's looking through a list of different things about this car profile, and it says different things like the model of the car, the color, how many wheels are on it, and that what objects are. It's just a container that stores list of data about a certain thing, and it can be used in a lot of things like APIs, which is a very important thing in web development, or just then again games, just like the other ones, different things. And I'm going to explain that more to you on what an object looks like, and what a key value pair is, and just all those different things, y'all. So let's get into what the syntax of an object looks like. So it's pretty much a variable, just like what we went over with the const and the name. But the difference is that it got a key value pair. So now a key value pair is what this looks like. Here's the name, well, I would say like a label of one of the properties, which is this is a property right here. This is one of the properties of the car. So we know the car is red. So this is the property name, and then we got the value, which is red. That's the value of the car is red. And we got the type, and it's USB or UVS. And then we got the car door, which is, it will add up to five doors in this car. So those are just little data that we put in there. So now I'm going to show y'all how to access that, or access said data. So the first way to access it, the normal way, if you're not counting this function right here, the normal way to do it would be the car, which is the name of the object, and then we choose one of the properties. So we would say color, and then we save it, and then we're gonna go here, and we're gonna refresh it, and it has red. So that is one example. Now we get into the function, which is called a method. Just like we went over before, what a method is. Same thing, but for an object, a object method is specifically designed for objects. Is used for objects to keep everything organized and bundled up together, so you don't have to have it separate. And dealing with all the chaos with that. So, but let me show y'all how to use the function. So if we go back, I think we go back. There you go. So you would just put the name of the function, which is car door, and then of course with the brackets, then we have 5. Now there's also another thing to objects, which is, let me show you, which is the this keyword. So now the this keyword allows object methods to grab different properties of the same object. So if you want to use the color property and put it into your method, then the this keyword would be very useful for that. So let me show y'all how to do that. There you go. The car is red. Of course, you need a little space, but the car is red. So we go back here. So yeah, y'all, this is a object. We're gonna be using this definitely in the future when we start getting into things like APIs and things like that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about functions. Now, functions is a reusable block of code that does something. It can be anything that it does. So, for example, you can. Uh, so, for example, let's just say we have a block, a green block, and this is just some random input, and then you put it through the machine. You give this machine a command, some code to tell it to turn some code to tell it to turn the color blue, and it outputs blue. So that what a function is. Explained the simple way, y'all. Okay, so now let's get into the function. So now the function is made up of a keyword called a function, of course, the name, the parameters, and the code in the middle, which is called this right area right here is a block of code. So let's break it down one by one. We're going to start off. So the parameters are like, so let's explain this a little simply. So let's get this. Let's set it up first, and then I'm going to explain it to you. Hold on. All right. So now the parameters. So the parameters are like the label of your value. So just say like, if you want to label a certain value in your block of code, like you want to label the number 1 the word 1. So you will put that up there, and that will be the label, but you have to give it some kind of value, and this will be the 1 right here. So we put the name of the function down here and put the value in there, and this is what you call the argument. You pass in this value into this label right here. So you put in this 1 into this label, and you put in that 1 into your block of code. So it goes from 1, 2, all the way to 3. This is the argument, and then you put it into your block of code. And so that's how this works, y'all. This is how a function works right here. And you can do all types of things. This is just the basics. When I first started learning about functions, it was kind of hard to understand because I was little at the time. But for y'all, gonna make someone explain this a little more simpler. So that is what a function is. You got your name, you got your function name, your parameter, which is your label of your value, and then you can put a value right inside your inside these brackets right here. And so that's what a function is, y'all. Okay, so now we also have another thing, a couple more things we want to go over before we move on to the next thing. Is just without the parameters, a function without the parameters. You can put whatever you can put whatever code you want to put in here without the value, but this right here specifically is calling a function right here. So to order to execute this this block of code you want onto the console, you have to call it. Now calling a function is just putting the name, just like what I said before, just putting the name down here without the value. That's how you call a function to display it. If you don't call it, it just won't work. So you can put it like this, and it won't work. So that's the normal way of doing it. That's the, without having to use the parameters. Then you also down here, you have a shortcut, and you have a shortcut when it comes to doing functions, and you can do it this way. You don't have to put the keyword function in there. You don't got to put that in there or declare it. You can put the cost, the name, you got your parameters, and you got your block of code. It's a short way and a modern way of doing it. If you want to do it that way, Usually you might see people do it this way. So that's one thing right there. And there's also one more thing I wanted to show y'all. You also have function expressions. So if we get rid of the function keyword and we do cost, then we do, I think it was cost, hold on, cost. And that is it to the function. So conditional statements. Now conditional statements allows your code to make choices. So this like so this say like if you give your code a condition, like you say 1 is greater than 3. Of course that would be false, and it will take you to this code. Or just say like if 1 was greater than 0, then that would be true. So then it would give you this code, and that what conditional statements are. And there are a few of them. There are a list of different types of statements. But in simple example of this is just say like if you had a guy, right? Have a guy. His name is Bob. You know, Bob is the code. Bob is the computer itself. He has a decision to make depending on the condition. So he sees the condition and like 1 is greater than 0. He's gonna go to the right side. But then again, the thing changes and you see 1 is greater than 3. So he's gonna go to the left side. And so, you know, it's something like that. This is a visual example and show y'all. But I'm going to show y'all what that looks like in code. So see y'all there. So let's go over the if statement. So we got if curly brackets, or brackets, let me say. And we have our brackets right here. This is an if statement right here. Now this is where the condition is going to go into. So we're going to do 1. Let's see what we do. Hold on. Oh, let's do this. Let's do 1 is equal to 2. And then we're going to console log. Console log write. So we're gonna do boom write. Then we're gonna save it, and then we're gonna go to the page. So it's false on this one. So this condition is false. But if we now I'm gonna show y'all the condition. So right here is false, of course, because 1 is not equal to 2. But if we switch it around and we do 1, then it should false. And now we're going to get into the if-else statement, which gives you the false version of the code. So we put the same thing as we did the last time. We're going to put the console log. Console.log. Boom. And we're going to put wrong. And, oh. Forgot to put got to make it into a string. Gotta do that first. and then we're going to put the semicolon, then we're going to put that, and now we get Wong. But if we switch it back to 1, we're going to get right. So that's how the if statement works. This is if statements are very important, y'all. Thing. So now we're going to go into switches, and we're going to show you how that works. This works very similar to if statements. Match that with the same case. So for example, if we have a switch and we give it a value, let's give it a string of red, and then we're going to get curly brackets. Oh, what just happened? Okay, give it some curly brackets, and then we give it a case, which is pretty much a name. I would say it's just a name. Let's give it a string of red, and then we going to give it a value. We're going to give it an output console dot log, and then we're going to give this one red specifically. We give this one red. Boom. Now we're going to break this, break it, and then we're going to make the other case or the other options. Well, you know, these you can call these options really. You got, you know, option 1. If it don't match with that, it's going to go to option 2, so on and so forth. So let's give this one the same name. We're going to give it red. Then we're going to give it a little value output console log, and then we're going to give it blue instead of red, and then we are going to put a semicolon, and there you go. So now what it should do, oops, hold on, let's see, give it blue, hold on. Okay, let's give this one. So now we have red and we have blue. So what it should do, it should match red with red, and it's going to output red. There you go. But if we switch it around, if we do this one red and this one blue, it should give us blue because it matched with red, with the case red. There you go. And then if we do red, the same one, it will give us red. It will choose the first one. So yep, that's how switches work, y'all. Is just give it a value, and it will go down the list to match it with one of the cases that has the same value or the same name. So yeah, another conditional statement, which is the for loop. Now the for loop repeats code over and over again until there's a false condition. So it can repeat stuff and repeat numbers, words, whatever you want, but there's a warning to it. You might you want to be careful with using it because you could go into an infinite loop, which means it's just infinitely keep on repeating the code you put in, and that's going to, of course, make your computer slow, and you got to restart it and stuff. So you want to be careful when you're doing that. But the order to avoid it is, you know, put in the right code. So you want to make sure you create your for loop. Y'all how a for loop is made. So we start off with the 4, and then we go into bracket and the curly bracket, and then there's 3 conditions for a for loop, and these 3 conditions is, and so there's 3 conditions in the for loop, and you have to have all 3 of them or it won't work properly. But I'm going to break down each of them one at a time. So we got the first condition, and this condition is the starting point. Is where your number starts, or whatever you is where your numbers start. So just say like we got, and this is a variable to let y'all know. So let number, that's going to be the name of our variable, equal, let's equal 1. Let's do 1, and that's going to be our starting point for our repeated code. Now, since we got our starting point, now we have to have a condition right here, and this is going to be, and this is going to tell it if it's true or false, pretty much saying if you wanted to keep it going or you wanted to stop. So what we do is we take our variable name and we put that, and then we do boom. Hold on. We do 5. I'm going to continue going until it gets to 5. And this is the condition. Now the next condition is what's going to keep it going, how far it should go. So what we do is we put our number variable like we just had, and then we do boom, boom, 5. And so this is the conditions right here, and it will go all the way up to 5. So we're going to start to 1, go all the way up to 5, and then we have one more condition. Now this condition is what's gonna, it just adds to the starting number. So it adds 1 to the starting number. Remember what I was talking about, increment? That's what this is gonna be. So we're gonna do 1, and then we're going to put a plus plus, and then we have to put our code in this block of code right here. So we're gonna put console.log, and then we're gonna put the name of the variable that we made, number, with the semicolon, and right here is what a for loop looks like, and this should stop any infinite loops or any of that or any problems. This is what the white code looks like. So now I'm going to show y'all how it works, and here we go. Boom. So we got starting at 1. Then it start to increment, keeps on going. So it started at 1, and it goes all the way down to 5, and this increment, and it increment the first number, which is 1, and it goes 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 gets to 5. And yep, that's it, y'all. And we don't have to keep on, one reason to do this is we don't have to keep on doing this. We don't have to keep on. Let's do this. Okay, if we don't gotta keep on doing this over and over again just to get some repeated code. That's a waste of time. So now we're going to talk about the DOM. Now the DOM stands for Document Object Model, and it's a programming interface that represents an HTML document as a tree of an object or of objects. So in short, the DOM is how JavaScript sees your HTML. It's how it sees it as a tree, starting from the document all the way down to the HTML tag, all the way down to the P tag. So it just reads your whole page as that. And once you do that, you can control it using different types of codes like document get element. You may see me use one time in the beginning of the video, or the 3 methods. So that is what a DOM is. So now we're going to get into the actual code. Okay, so now we're going to go over the different things you can manipulate on the HTML page. So the first thing we have is the document get element by ID. So we're going to break this down separately because this is a long piece of code right here. So starting off with the document is what this is what your page is. The whole document right here. This is the document, or you call it HTML page right here. So it will access, this whole thing is going to access this HTML document. Then once it accesses it by, we're going to put this period right here, and that's going to connect to the get element by ID. So we getting the element by its ID. So we getting P, the element, and by ID is going to be text. So this is what we grabbing. We trying to grab this element right here so we could do whatever to it, like put new text into it or change the color of it. So that's just some of the things you can do with that. This is also the class version of it. So if you're not using the ID and you're using the class, right here, you can swap the ID with class name. And then we also have document.query selector. So query selector is specifically for the CSS page. If some of y'all do know CSS, right here is going to be selecting that P class, the class P tag right here, and it's going to be selecting that so we can change it or do whatever we want to it. And the specifically for this, you can use this for like if you was making a drop down menu, you want to do certain things to it, or animations. That's useful. I'll explain the ID tag, but these are all just the selected. That's what these pieces of code or statements is used for, is just the select it. And yeah, so we're gonna move on to the next one. Okay, so now we're gonna go over the next set of code right here, which is the text content. So if we just separate this right here, because these are pretty much 2 separate parts right here. So we have our selector. So we just explained that in the last part, our selector. And then we have our text content, which allows us to put text inside the element we selecting. So if we put this together and make it as one by the period right here, we're going to get hello. So it's pretty much it's basically putting text inside this P tag without really doing it. So yep, that's the cool thing about JavaScript. You can do a lot of manipulations with the document right here, and this is one way. There's also another way. I think it was text HTML or something like that. There was another way you can do it, but I don't think that way is really safe. But yeah, so There's probably a couple ways you can do it like this, but this is the main way that we're going to focus on for right now. And yeah, so now we're going to learn how to actually create an element. We're not going to put text in it this time. We're going to create an element, and I'm going to show y'all how to remove it. Okay, so this is how you create an element. So I made this little structure right here. Let me separate it a little bit to make it easier. So what I did with this one is we have the we have a variable. We have a let new element variable, and then I went ahead and connected the document to this create element. So obviously by the name, you created an element. So the P right here is so we creating the P. We creating the P tag, and then of course we go ahead and connect that with the dot to text content hello world. And that's what this is right here. And then we access the document, we access the body, and we append child new element. So append child means it puts a element inside an element. So right now we have the body. Of course, you access the body, so it's putting the new element inside that body. Putting an element inside an element. That would append child do. Well, of course, you could tell by the name. So that's how we add elements. Now I'm going to show you how to remove elements. Okay, so now we have the remove element side. So we have the same element. It creates a P tag and puts the hello world. Now we attach that to the remove method, and that's gonna remove the whole element as a whole. It's non-existent no more. And that's how you remove elements right there. Now we're going to move on to another thing called event listeners, or events, let's just say. Okay, so now we're going to talk about add event listeners. So, or event listeners. So, event listeners are pretty much just a way. Well, let me see how to explain this. It's just you. It just allows you to do an action and get some kind of result out of that action. So now we have our event listeners. So event listeners are used for any type of action. So just say like if you clicking a button and you want that button to do something, event listener can help you with that. Or you click an image and it do a cool little thing. Event listeners can possibly help you with that. So that would this do, you can apply a certain action to different elements and make it do stuff. So let me show y'all how this works. So we have a button. I created a button right here of ID BTN, and say click me. Very simple, basic. We got a variable right here. Now this variable, of course, as we went over, is going to access the BT or the BTN. So that was going to access, and then we connect that to the add event listener. Now this is where it gets important. So once we connect this to the add event listener, we choose an option called click. Now there's many other options like hover and other things like that, but we're choosing click for right now, and we're going to apply a function, a certain type of function. We're going to make it output some text in the console. So once we click the button, it's going to output text like it is right here. So we click it. This is the fourth time I clicked this. So the button was clicked. It was testing some of it. So you keep on clicking it and it's going to output button was clicked. So that's how it works simply in a simple way, y'all. There's also other things you can do with it, like you can use this for a scroll bar animation. Like if you scroll down, certain animations pop up. That's You can use that for that and buttons and other things I was talking about. So this is very useful when it comes to doing a lot of fun things. That's to me what makes JavaScript fun, is manipulating the DOM and doing cool things like that. Obviously, it's probably the main part, anyways. But yep, that's what event listeners is, y'all. And we did the fundamentals of manipulating the DOM. Of course, once we get into the advanced video, we're gonna be learning a lot more things using the DOM. So, yep, and that's it, y'all. So, see y'all in the and so yep, that's it, y'all. Change it to something totally different, like let's do red apple. Boom, red apple. So this is the basics of manipulating the DOM. Now we're gonna get into some other things that on click, and it was some code that we want to display. And that was in an event too. That was an attribute you can put into a button, or you can put into you can put into a button. And so yeah, those are the events that you can do to have your buttons work, or you interact with your page better. And yeah, that would be it, y'all, for the event listeners.